to get a decent job now, you have to have more education than you did in the past. Now, whether you need more education to do that job, well, is up in the air, of course. But it takes people longer to get prepared for entering the labor force. And what that does is it keeps them economically dependent on their parents for a longer period of time, whether they're in college or whether they're, waiting tables or bussing tables while they're getting ready to get the job they really want to do. So that has introduced a number of years. It's also the case that people are just waiting longer to get married. And they're waiting longer partly because they're not economically ready to support their own family yet. But I think that the cost of housing has risen so much that they can't afford to set up an independent home. They can't afford to buy a place to live. They can't afford to rent an apartment, especially if they're living in very expensive cities like New York or San Francisco, or the East Coast and West Coast just in general. So I think that it's taking people longer. I'm not one of those persons who thinks that it's because kids are lazy. I mean, adults have always criticized the young people coming up as being, not as hardworking, not as ambitious, not as serious as they should be. But that goes back thousands of years. That criticism has always been there. As far as I can tell from looking at the data, there aren't big differences between young people today and their counterparts a generation ago. So I think we can set aside this idea that it's taking people longer to become adults because they want that. I've met a lot of students who are living at home with their parents. It's okay. That's not where they want to be, though. And in the United States, living with your parents has become the most common arrangement for people in their 20s. And that has never been the case in the United States since the beginning of the 20th century. Even during the Great Depression, that was not the most common living arrangement of young people. So that adds further complications to it. What kind of rules do you have now that your 28-year-old is living at home with you? How do you adjust to their lifestyle, whether that includes their romantic lifestyle, their social lifestyle? You're up close to them in ways that you haven't been for a long time. And I think figuring out how to negotiate those waters is a challenge for lots of parents and their kids.